Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Gridiron Glory, where Will and Tad talk about the 32 teams of the NFL and their highlights and stories. Today, we're recapping a Week 5 matchup with the Baltimore Ravens overtime victory in Cincinnati, 41-38. Some very high-level quarterback play by both Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow, two of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. In the victory, Lamar Jackson, 26 out of 42, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air. Also, 12 rushes for 55 yards on the ground. So, over 400 yards of total offense for Lamar Jackson, who's the best dual threat quarterback in the NFL, arguably in the history of the NFL. So, great showing there. You add Derrick Henry to the offense, and he has a fairly solid performance, especially with the big run in overtime to set up the game-winning field goal. 15 carries, 92 yards, and a touchdown. So a solid balance, enough for Baltimore to keep competitive in the game. Zay Flowers, the second-year receiver, out of Boston College, 7 catches for 111 yards on 12 targets. So a solid day there for him. A huge day for Roquan Smith on defense with his 14 total tackles there. So that's a good look there. A big interception from Marlon Humphrey to help spear the comeback. So Baltimore, they did a lot of things right here, especially on the offensive side. Obviously, the defense had a bit of a hard time covering the Cincinnati offense, but yeah, with you got a guy like Lamar Jackson just making the plays that you need to make to win football games. So yeah, that's what you get there. You get a good kick out of Justin Tucker. He bounces back from what is a slow start to the season with a clutch 56-yard field goal. So Baltimore, at least on offense and special teams, firing on all cylinders in Cincinnati, getting a huge road win within their division.
A huge road win indeed. You know, yeah, like you said, Justin Tucker gets that field goal to force the overtime. Lamar gets the ball back late in the overtime, able to go down there and do his thing. Derrick Henry, of course, an absolute freight train. Zay Flowers, Charlie Kohler, Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely, a really good defense led by Roquan Smith and even Kyle Hamilton. And real quick, I do want to go ahead and get your take on Kyle Hamilton as a safety in the NFL.
Yeah, he is one of the better safeties in the league, and you'd almost be surprised to see the Bengals have such a big game on offense, especially passing the football against a guy like Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey and a very strong defensive backfield. But they, to be honest, they didn't have their best game. I mean, Joe Burrow torched that defense in a losing effort, but it was definitely not because of because of the offense for Cincinnati. Like Joe Burrow had a huge game, 30 for 39, 392 yards, 5 touchdowns, and interception. So he was in touch with his receivers. You get 10 catches, 193, 2 touchdowns for Chase. You get 2 touchdowns to T. Higgins, 9 catches, 83 yards. So just the Bengals offense, it looked early on in the game, at least like going into say the fourth quarter, midway through the fourth quarter, even like the Bengals might just roll and they might just answer every comeback attempt by the Ravens. But in the end, the Ravens, they just resiliency of the Ravens to bounce back after every score. Like after halftime, it went touchdown Cincinnati, touchdown Baltimore, touchdown, 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 touchdown until the Ravens finally got an interception late in the fourth quarter by Humphrey. So that's what gave the Ravens a real chance to come back. And it was just a really resilient effort by Baltimore to stay in the game. Even when your defense is getting torched play after play, in the end, you make the play you have to make, and then you just execute. Like, just quality execution by the Ravens to force the comeback, force the overtime, and then eventually get the stop after you fumbled the football. There was the unfortunate fumble by Lamar Jackson on their first possession in overtime, but then you stop the run. You get a fortunate miss by Evan McPherson on his field goal attempt, and then you go down the field, you get your field goal, and that's how you win a football game. Just solid enough execution by Baltimore. They made the plays they had to win a big game like this.
Yeah, you know, I mean, Lamar Jackson going out there doing his thing. Lamar Jackson making big plays all the time. Even in, you know, moments like this, I mean, these two quarterbacks definitely were going to be able to go out there and give it their all. The Cincinnati defense just, I mean, a lot of question marks there for sure. And, you know, now they fall to 1-4, tied with Cleveland at the bottom of the division, you know, and Baltimore now leads 3-2. So, I mean, T. Higgins, you know, caught a couple of good touchdowns. Jamar Chase, even. I mean, this was not on the offense for the Bengals. A lot of question marks in the secondary, kind of outside of Cam Taylor-Britt. Certainly a lot of question marks with that defensive line and that front seven being able to. I mean, you got to be able to contain Lamar Jackson a lot better than you did in this game. And I mean, while Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson, the front seven just simply failed to contain him more times than not. So, what do you do on the defensive side of the ball going forward? Really, the biggest question mark for Cincinnati.
Yeah, definitely a big question mark there. Can they compete a little better up front? The front seven, the offensive line, even a bit of a question there. But when it comes to the Bengals, I mean, at this point, you're 4, you lost all 3 of your own games. Definitely not the start you were hoping to see out of the Bengals. And now, like, the question, what do they do next? Can they bounce back again? Can they try to salvage this? And they have a big game against the New York Giants this next week, so that could potentially be an opportunity to bounce back. But I mean, at this point, it's just up to the Bengals to decide if they want to be a serious football team or not. I mean, to this point, it's a game they have to win, I'd say. Like, if you want to be a serious football team, you should expect to win this football game. So it's up to the Bengals to prove that they want to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no interceptions for Lamar. Both the offensive lines performed pretty well for the two quarterbacks to be able to go out there and have the performances that they did.
Yeah.
A very pivotal win for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, absolutely. The Ravens, they did what they had to do, and they move into first place in the division. I believe a tie with Pittsburgh, but so yeah, they're in first place, and now they have a big exciting matchup coming up in the early afternoon slot against the Washington Commanders in Baltimore. So that'll be an exciting game to look forward to next week. Did you have any last thoughts on the matchup?
Yeah, the Cincinnati Bengals, you mentioned the other matchup, the Cincinnati Bengals will be playing at the New York Giants on Sunday Night Football. You gotta win that game. I mean, you have to win that game. Like, if you want any chance of getting back in this AFC race whatsoever, must-win game for the Bengals next week. Enough said about that. Yep, Ravens win 41-38.